we're really excited to be hosting this unique panel and have an esteemed guest as part of it. First, thank you all who have registered and attended. We have all over 400 people from all around the world. So if you're up late and joining this, thank you so much. We hope this is insightful. And we want you to be engaged. Please ask questions. There's polls. Give us feedback. And the best piece of feedback we're going to have here is giving a free AirPod, one free pair of AirPod Pros to the best feedback. We're going to do that at the very end. Without further ado, we'd like to introduce the panelists who are joining us from Fyber, MoPub, AppLovin, and ironSource. One of the things I thought to make this a little bit more fun and engaging for them to do is they gave us all some fun facts. So I'm going to run through really quickly the fun facts of each person, and then named persons who are introducing themselves, and they could tell you a fun fact that is theirs. So the first fun fact is one person roasts their own coffee. Second one is collector. One is they could sneeze 8 times in a row. And the last one played basketball at 14 against Kevin Durant's team, and they won. So let's start introducing the guests, and let's start with Jamie from.
Hi, I'm a group product manager or group product growth manager at MoPub, and my fun fact is that I do roast coffee at home. I'm a huge coffee lover, and it's actually coming quite handy during quarantine that we can roast our own coffee. I've been at MoPub for 6 years. I originally was on the publisher side of the business, actually with Dan Sack, and I moved over to the product team, leading the product growth team for the last 2 years.
Great. And Dan.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Dan Sack. I'm the VP of Platform over at AppLovin, and prior to that, I was the CEO of Max. Prior to that, I spent many years in MoPub. My fun fact is that I played basketball against Kevin Durant as a kid. This was before he hit a massive growth spurt, and my team actually beat his team.
Excellent. Adam.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Adam Corrado here from Fyber. I'm the GM of our Fairbid mediation platform. My fun fact is the mezcal collecting. I really enjoy mezcal and I love going direct to the source in Oaxaca to collect all varieties.
Awesome. And Nimrod.
Hi, everybody. Nimrod Zuta, VP Product for ironSource, and oversees the ironSource platform activity. My fun fact is that when I sneeze, I can sneeze up to like 8 times in a row, which is not that popular in Corona days, but that's what it is.
Well, thank you guys so much, first and foremost, again, to joining and introducing yourselves and your organizations. And we're here to actually kind of enlighten everybody about this topic of in-app bidding, right? So people want to know a little bit more about this. What is in-app bidding, and how does this differentiate from the current traditional mediation? Why don't we start with Jamie?
Sure. So in-app bidding is something, or bidding was originated on desktop and known as header bidding. In-app bidding is a variation of that. So historically, demand sources were chosen based on a historical price and priority. In-app bidding allows different demand sources and different networks to bid in real time on a per impression basis. So rather than them being chosen based on a historical price, in-app bidding allows these different networks to bid in real time for every single impression.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add to that, Nimrod?
No, I think it's quite good. Jamie mentioned frame it quite well. I think that what's important to understand is like it's actually competition in real time over each and every impression, and the idea that we are in-app bidding is focusing on supply side automation, and not necessarily on trying to optimize things on the demand side, which is like fairly interesting for publishers.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's really pushing kind of the supply side here. Okay, so thanks for kind of explaining the high level of what's going on with in-app bidding. maybe the next step we should talk about is where we stand, like where we're at right now with the in-app bidding solutions, and maybe we could start with Dan. What's your thoughts of what's going on currently in in-app bidding?
Sure. So at the moment, some networks are bidding and some are not. Some are working to get there. On the publisher side, a lot of publishers are currently making more money today with hybrid models. Hybrid meaning some mediated networks, some bidding networks in their stacks. Speaking specifically about Max, in 2019, we proved out that bidding actually improves publisher revenue. Up until that point, there'd been a lot of speculation that bidding would drive up competition, which would drive up revenue. In 2019, we proved that out. In 2020, bidding is absolutely here. It's proven, it's mainstream. Today, we have tons of large developers, companies like Fanity and Calibri out in Europe, Geisha Tokyo in Japan. Globally, we have tons of developers who are currently on Max on our platform, generating more money with bidding from multiple bidders. Fun fact, at the moment, somewhere in the range of 40 to 60% of the revenue earned by publishers on Max comes from SDK bidders. And we, as well as the other platforms on this panel, I'd imagine have several more bidders, SDK bidders, planning to launch in the coming months.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, Dan. And that being said, one of the challenges we're seeing in this industry right now is getting the transition for developers to come in here and join. And there's some concerns with that. There's a lot of common concerns for developers in bidding. What do you have to say to offset this, Adam?
So I think the concerns that we've seen most bidders have most publishers have is the market ready? Am I moving too early, or should I be actually moving now? I think to Dan's point, that we've started to see the number or the percent of transactions that are executed programmatically really start to outstrip the number of transactions from the waterfall. So we're seeing something like 70% of our transactions executed programmatically today, and a little bit lower number for the percent of revenue that's driven through those transactions. But I think the main point here is where this product has reached a level of maturity and the market is ready. I think another barrier has been where are all of the bigger network buyers with regards to in-app bidding. And I think we're approaching a point in the market where we're going to start to see a lot more activity with those incumbent networks that folks are really familiar with, which will get publishers a lot more comfortable with the idea that the waterfall is going to be a thing of the past.
Okay. Maybe anybody else, like Nimrod, do you have anything to add, your thoughts about the concerns?
So yes, I think Adam actually mentioned most important parts. While I'll add to that I think that like anything new, or when trying anything that you are not using right now, so the number one concern is to break something. So everything is working right now. Why should I change it? So I think the developers already understand and know that bidding can help them to up the performance, so they are more open to that. While I'll say that clearly the number one concern will be around breaking something that is already working. And we're lucky at ironSource to work with some of the leading grossing developers in the market, and they have a very healthy activity running for years right now, and your ad monetization is very significant, and it's working for years. So right now, changing the technology may clearly add some concerns on that. While I think that, as Adam mentioned earlier, we are getting there, and developers are already, I'll say, already happily testing the in-app bidding technology and actually adopting that very easily.
Okay, guys. So thanks for addressing the concerns. One of the key things I want to have you guys all talk about is your specialty. So like as a chef, they have their own ingredients and things. They like to spice it up and have their own flavor. Well, each one of your companies has a unique technology and flavor for the bidding solutions, from Fairbid, advanced bidding, Level Play, and Max. Adam, would you like to start to talk about Fairbid?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the big gaps the industry has today is the need to close the understanding between DSPs and networks. I think a lot of, especially game publishers, really rely on ad networks to drive a lot of their revenue. But there's a whole world of programmatic buyers, especially performance programmatic buyers, that publishers don't really get to see granularity around, because they either buy through ad networks or they buy through an exchange that gets put into a waterfall. Fyber's one of our major differentiators is that we've been programmatic first for a long time. And so we're making sure that publishers get to see all of the performance from those DSPs alongside their network buyers. In fact, when we look at our top demand partners, we're seeing that roughly five of our top 10 buyers are buying programmatically, and 9 of our top 15 buyers are buying programmatically. And I think when publishers look at their demand sources on some other platforms, they typically will see 7 to 8 buyers, which are just the SDK networks. But having a lot of focus on those performance DSPs, especially the Liftoffs, Molokos of the world, who don't necessarily present to the publisher market as strong demand partners, but really are, is something that we've been focusing on. And I think we've started to see a lot more traction around.
Okay, awesome. And Nimrod, how about Level Play?
So actually, I think that when we're discussing about platform, so it's not necessarily with respect to in a bidding platform, it's first the platform itself. So while in a bidding is clearly, as of today, a very significant part of monetization platform, it's important to mention that it's generally speaking the same technology, this or the other, while a platform has more to provide in that. Clearly, everything around reporting, management capabilities, even text strengths, SDKs integration, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So with Level Play specifically, number one is clearly we are gaming focused. So everything with respect to reward video technology, we've been in the industry working with all the big guys for 7 years already, and the technology is pretty solid with respect to caching and optimization on rewarded video integration. Additional angles specifically to Level Play is everything around innovation. We're working very closely, with the game developer, making sure that we provide with the right solution for the market. And features like ad revenue measurements, course reports, A/B testing, and many others where we were happy to release them first to the market, and later on also see the entire market align with that. It's actually felt very good because then that you've made the right decision, and I believe it is going to remain in the future as well. So everything around innovation, providing new solution to help developers scale their activity.
Got it. Great. And Dan, how about Max?
Max, sure. So one thing that's unique, I think, about Max from day one was intended to bring efficiency and transparency and growth to the ecosystem with an emphasis on bidding. Max is the only platform that was built for a bidding world from the ground up from day one. Other things I would say unique about Max and AppLovin, we're laser focused on gaming. 100% of the publishers on Max run with bidding today. It works that well. Something that complements bidding, we've built an A/B testing tool that's extremely easy to use. It solves an age-old problem for publishers, makes it painfully easy for publishers to both optimize pricing of mediated lines around your bidders and also test flipping a network from mediated lines to bidding, so you can very cleanly and easily and safely see and test, okay, let me try flipping Mintigrol from mediated lines to bidding. What's the impact? Okay, I see the impact. I can move on. to Nimrod's point about not wanting to break things. The final thing I'll touch on is we're, as a company and as a platform, investing in brand safety tools for developers. So last year we bought SafetyK, awesome company, and toolset out in Israel. And since then we've been working together towards a unified solution with the goal of providing developers increased transparency, insights, control.
Fantastic. And Jamie, how about advanced bidding?
Yeah, so I'd say, very similar to what Adam mentioned, is that for MoPub, we've operated a real-time exchange for 8 years, almost the entire existence of MoPub. So adding in networks is something that is really natural for us to do. So the shift that we're seeing in the ecosystem is something that MoPub has already had built. So getting these different demand sources on, again, is, we already have the infrastructure. So I would say that's one unique piece. Another one that is true to MoPub, not just specific to advanced bidding, is we really, uphold the idea of running a fair auction and a transparent one, so that publishers can, look at reporting and they're confident that we are running that fair auction. And I think that that is something that has become increasingly important for publishers, and MoPub has maintained that and taken that into how we have built advanced bidding.
Well, great, everybody. Thank you so much for this addressing, what is in-app bidding, with the concerns, and then, kind of describing the descriptions about yourselves and your organization's specialties. Now what we want to talk about is the benefits and details about that process for testing, say, an uplift between a traditional waterfall that most developers have now to an in-app bidding solution. And how do you formulate that on an A/B test? Let's start with Nimrod.
Sure. So with respect to the transition, so if a developer is currently using, let's say, only static instances, so a common test will be to run the same waterfall on the A group, and on the grid and the B group adjust some, if not all, available networks to use to run as bidders. While in case there are some networks within the stack that are not supporting bidding, it's very recommended to keep them with the same setup of instances and prices in both groups, and then actually compare, the different KPIs. Clearly, revenue using metrics like ARPDAU and ARPU through core supporting is number one, while it's also very common and important to also look at metrics around the game user experience, around, for example, retention and engagement with the ads and stuff like that.
Okay, great. And do you have anything to add to, again, testing and A/B testing, Jamie?
Yeah, so MoPub also has a similar, A/B testing product where you can test traditional or static mediation and advanced bidding. So we actually released a white paper that goes over how you should architect these tests, because there's a couple really important elements, and I'll give just a couple things that are the most important. One is that you definitely, like as Nimrod mentioned, you're going to want these two groups. Keep A as you've always been monetizing, and then transition B to this bidding platform, or this bidding, the bidding world with all these different networks bidding in real time. But the other really important aspect is that before you activate bidding on the B side, we actually recommend using both these groups and monetizing with a static network until you have equal ARPDAU in both of these groups, and then you activate bidding on this B group. So obviously, if you just immediately go with new placement IDs in this B group, it might not be as scientific as a result. So we recommend go live with traditional mediation in the A and the B side, wait till the ARPDAU is the same, and then activate bidding on that B group. Of course, there's a few other nuances that we would recommend, but I won't go through them all. But it is something, we have publishers that run these A/B tests. We also have some that prefer to run a pre-post test, which is not as scientific, but we leave it up to the publishers to choose whichever method they want to.
Yeah, and ARPDAU seems like, add ARPDAU with Jamie and Nimrod saying is a common metric. What do you think, Adam?
Yes, I think what we've seen is a shift in publisher attention from CPM as the main metric for measuring the performance of their ad partners to ARPDAU, which is excellent. It's healthy for the industry. It's something that I think we've been advocating for a long time. And now with the rigor of A/B testing tools, we're starting to see a lot more of this evidence end up in publishers' hands. Fyber has an A/B testing tool which is coming to market next week, which is awesome. And so we've started to working with our bidding partners and with our publishers to work through the same types of rigorous tests that have been discussed here. I think one of the keys here really is making sure that the inventory is being compared to itself. So having the same app, the same placement, split traffic to waterfall and bidding to really understand what the true difference is. I think the kind of pre-post tests that we had seen in the past were really a crutch because we didn't have those types of A/B testing tools to get to market. But now, with the mediation platforms that are up here, obviously A/B testing tools are table stakes for being in this game. And I think that's led a lot of publishers to have a lot more depth around their understanding of how to understand the benefits of a mediation platform.
Yeah, and I guess outside of then ARPDAU increases, what are other benefits in in-app bidding? How do you want to quantify them, Dan?
Sure. All this talks got me thinking that we could do another one of these on A/B testing. But first, sticking with bidding, so additional benefits. ARPDAU's one that we all obviously watch closely. Other benefits. So first thing, operational efficiency. So benefit and how we quantify benefit, operational efficiency. Fewer lines to manage. More time back in your day to work on other things. What's one way to quantify this? Maybe you can track hours back in your day. Another fun fact, PeopleFun has a publisher of Wordscapes. They've shifted a lot of their networks. They're using Max. They've shifted several of their networks from mediated lines to bidding. And PeopleFun's been able to axe over 1,000 lines from their collective waterfalls. Two, reduced latency. So when a publisher launches on Max, we generally see an increase in IMPDAU, impressions per DAU. So benefit, reduced latency, how we quantify, increased IMPDAU. Fewer round trips, working your way through a waterfall leads to faster ad serving, which leads to more impressions, higher revenue. If you were at our event last year in Berlin, you heard the founder of Triple Dot speak to this benefit. A couple other quick things. If you're making more money, perhaps you want to grow your team. So at our event last year in San Francisco, Flyclops, early Max adopter, shifted from prior platform to Max, saw a 60% ARPDAU bump, used that money to make 2 new hires. Final thing, I don't know too many developers that are in this business because they enjoy spending time managing waterfalls. So less time managing waterfalls means more time you can spend building games. Suji out in Europe, Geisha Tokyo in Japan, Lion Studios, plenty more. These companies, they're spending less time managing waterfalls, more time building games, prototyping games, launching games. That's the benefit. One way to quantify that is successful app launches. And you'll notice these 3 developers have basically established homes at the top of the app stores lately.
Nice. And anything else additional with regards to quantification, Adam, do you think it'd be good to talk about?
Yeah, so I think one of the big areas that we're seeing is a lowering of transaction costs. So being able to disintermediate the DSPs from waterfalls and from ad networks, we're able to take steps, those jumps away from the gap between programmatic buyers and publisher. So having DSPs not buy through an ad network is important because publishers are seeing that DSPs are actually making up something like 20 to 40% of their overall revenue in some cases. They're also not having to buy in an auction that then gets put into a waterfall, which causes a higher number of ad requests and thus higher number of transaction costs over time. So we're able to take that savings and pass it through to the publisher as higher revenue and thus higher ARPDAU. And I think that is driving a lot of value for publishers here.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for addressing kind of the benefits of in-app bidding and talking about that ad ARPDAU. One of the things I wanted to let you all address, and I know Dan hinted a few of this, is who has with you guys benefited using in-app bidding on your platforms? What developers specifically have enjoyed this? Why don't we start with Jamie and you guys at Advanced Bidding?
Yeah, so we've seen success across the board in all global regions and all verticals. Within North America, we released case studies from PCH, Yukon, and AudioMac. So again, across the board on verticals, and their ARPDAU lift, because we measure the success purely on ARPDAU, as we talked about earlier, has been anywhere from 5% to 45%. I think last week or the week before, we also released a case study with Homa Games, who's based out of EMEA, and they saw a 9% ARPDAU lift. And then similarly in APAC, we've seen that lift. And I think it's important that not only within gaming are we seeing this lift, but we are seeing it across different verticals. And the lift, varies so greatly from 5% to 45%, because it's dependent on, the publisher, what sort of formats, what their ad mix is, how granular is their waterfall before and after. But consistently, we have seen the increase in ARPDAU when a publisher.
How are you guys at Fairbid, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing exact same lifts in ARPDAU, which are really exciting. We've released case studies with Absolute Games, with Molesta Games. We've seen great traction with in-app bidding on Catch App as well. And yeah, I think across the board we've seen success with ARPDAU increases via bidding. We haven't seen anybody revert to waterfall, which is an excellent sign. And yeah, I think with the Fairbid product, 100% of our publishers have access to programmatic buying. It's a programmatic native product, and so they get to opt in on the ad network side, but the DSPs are all kind of automatically opted into the inventory. So I think when publishers start using it, they start to really learn a lot more about how programmatic and bidding is driving a lot of their revenue.
Awesome. Dan, do you want to add anything else to someone's case, people using you guys at Max?
Of course, sure. So lots of success stories, as others on this panel have had. To call some out, over in Europe, we've seen Triple Dot. They make a great solitaire app. They bumped up their ARPDAU 20%, and that's a super smart, savvy studio. Tap Nation in France, up 12%, ARPDAU up 12%. Calibri, leader in Idle, ARPDAU up 20%. Popcore, Europe, leader in hyper casual, ARPDAU up 20%. Suji Games, like I mentioned, kind of an interesting one, had been developing games and then publishing through publishing companies. Switched to self-publishing, stacked heavy on bidding. They've launched a handful of games lately to the top of the App Store. So I call that out for developers in the audience who are thinking about self-publishing. In APAC, Geisha Tokyo, leader in hyper casual, ARPDAU up 30%. Yodo One, ARPDAU up 12%. I'm almost done. US Network, tier 1 game developer over in the US, 75% ARPDAU lift. And that's a developer that's heavy on IP, so bidding impacting their bottom line. PlayQ, makers of Charm King, ARPDAU up 100%, so a 2x there. And then Super Lucky, early adopter of Max, ARPDAU up 50%.
All right, great. And Nimrod, Level Play and ironSource.
Yeah, thanks. So we saw already like several case studies on success stories across the board. We are working to date on few case studies to be released soon, so nothing to share publicly right now. I would like to mention that I think that common mistakes as of today for a publisher trying bidding is to anticipate 50% of ARPDAU. I mean, we heard right now, several cases also from the forum here, and some great success stories. Bidding is great, and bidding optimizes your ARPDAU. While if you're using the right partner and the right platform, regardless of if you're using bidding or not, you should be already quite optimized, which means that bidding with the right setup can, as shared here, can uplift your performance between somewhere to between 5%, and we already saw cases of like 45% and even more. While in most cases, if you have a strong team working on monetization and you have a right partner on the platform that helps you optimize your ad stack, you should be quite optimized already, even without bidding. So bidding will provide with an uplift of maybe 10, 15%. But if you see an uplift of, let's say, 50 or 60%, you should ask yourself what was wrong earlier and what you've done wrong. And happily, I can share that we very rarely see those cases, while the vast majority of cases see great success with, let's say, between 5 to 20% uplift with ARPDAU, which is great. A company which has worked hard optimizing their waterfall on a daily basis, running their user acquisition activity based on those this revenue, right now seeing 15% increase in ARPDAU is amazing. It's a great success, and you should be very happy with that, with all the additional benefits that the group here already mentioned earlier, and not find yourself disappointing from not reaching like 60% uplift.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think we all are here saying that we see this, this consistently see an increase in ARPDAU, but that is the case for a majority of publishers. But even if a publisher didn't, or only saw a 1% increase, and the bidding product is still valuable, because a big benefit is this drop in this operational overhead. You don't have to manage this 1,000-line waterfall. So even if ARPDAU was flat, it still would benefit. But I do think it's important to say that they're consistently seeing good results, but some publishers can see up to 1%, but that is a huge benefit to them, since they no longer have to maintain a massive waterfall.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that actually transitions a little bit to our next point. So it's good to perspective is saying, hey, even 1% of bidding leading to, obviously, some of you folks talking about 100% is kind of the goal, and less is more with this perspective on in-app bidding. So I wanted to actually ask all of you, now that we know kind of what in-app bidding is, some of the benefits, where we're going, like what's the future like? And I'd love to get like quick answers from all of you on this. So in your perspective on, what would you like to see in the future with in-app bidding, and what's your take? Dan, you want to start?
Sure. So growth in our ecosystem, that's our vision. More networks bidding, more publishers making more money with bidding, equal inventory access for networks and advertisers, more time for devs to focus on making games, growth in our ecosystem. I don't know if I mentioned that one. That's our vision. So tools to empower developers so that they can focus on making games.
Awesome. Okay, how about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think that the vision we have is really tying ads more deeply into game development itself. I think what we've seen is kind of an evolution in studios from having siloed teams that are working on UA and ad monetization and game design itself to more integration in those teams. And so being able to really collect all of the skill sets and all of the data sets that those teams are working with, and arm them with tools that cross the barriers of those different focus areas to accelerate all of their participation in ad monetization is part of that vision. I think taking ad revenue up to being on par with or beyond the value of IAP for a lot of studios is something that will be a product of those efforts. And then also broadening access to the demand market. What we've seen is that there's a lot of demand that exists outside of the ad networks, or gets stuck somewhere in the waterfall, or gets stuck in competition inside of ad network exchanges, and really bringing all of that up to a single level. Like I said before, we're seeing 9 of our top 15 demand partners buying programmatically. I don't think I've seen in the questions here questions about where are Chartboost, where in Mobi in this type of buying, and the answer is they're buying programmatically. They're buying as DSPs, and oftentimes buying at higher CPMs and at more volume than some ad networks. But you can't see that in a lot of mediation platforms. So you're really getting that level of awareness of the publisher community up to a place where they actually have all of the available demand buying their inventory in a competitive environment is the goal we're aiming for.
Okay, and what do you see in the future, Nimrod?
I think that actually Dan covered it quite well. I think that the entire forum thing that we all see bidding as the future, and we truly believe that bidding will be the standard. While I would like to focus actually and use that opportunity, I think that there are lots of people in the crowd here that are actually app developers and game developers, and I think that it's a great opportunity to actually make sure that you guys understand that you have the power in your hands to influence the future. So while we are all as a platform are working closely with all the partners and trying to have those ad networks and sources transition and supporting bidding, actually you can influence quite significant. If you're working with a network that is not supporting bidding, let them know that you like bidding, that you prefer to work with bidding, that that's the right technology for you. Maybe in the future, even when the vast majority of the share of wallet will be bidding, you will even find yourself so comfortable to tell them, guys, if you will not support the bidding, we may even stop optimizes all those line items for you, which will impact your performance. So I think that the future is with bidding, and we're all working to automate the competition and each and every impression, and you guys can really help to promote that for yourselves.
Nice. And Jamie, what's your perspective on the future, and any insights there?
Yeah, so I definitely agree that for the future is certainly that a majority of publishers are going to monetize through in-app bidding partners and networks. So I think over time, and we have seen over the last 6 months, a huge increase in adoption and the amount of impressions that are being transacted through bidding. So I think that's going to continue. But I do think that it's still important that some publishers may still want to set up a guaranteed deal or a direct deal, and I think it's important for a platform to allow them to do that if it's important. Obviously, another element to that is to give transparency and reporting so publishers can see the value or the loss if they do set up a direct deal. But I think, as throughout this year and into 2021, absolutely a bigger percent of impressions will be transacted through bidding networks. But I do think we should acknowledge that for some publishers, they're going to still want to monetize in a traditional way, either with maybe a new static network that doesn't have the ability. And so for MoPub, we do have the way we're building our product is definitely bidding first, but also empowering publishers to make the decision of how they want to monetize and what partners they want to use.
Awesome. And then with regards to one of the, I guess this is my last question is, there's a big hurdle, oh man, as a developer, I don't know what to do, or I'm feeling pressure. What, all of you, I'm going to ask you this and you could do a quick answer, is what is the next step for publishers to get started on bidding with you guys and in general? Nimrod?
So I think we've actually covered that very early. I think that just like any other decision making, around product, around strategy, clearly around also monetization, using A/B testing, right? Run a test. If you are not sure, platform just like ourselves, you can try, bidding on a very small portion of your traffic and make sure that you're getting confidence with that, and then gradually grow. So again, as long as you're using if you don't have the confidence, just A/B test and see the benefits and the effect, and nothing beyond that.
Okay. Dan, any best practice for developers to get on board?
Sure. So there's enough success around bidding happening that I think developers are aware that this is something that is an opportunity. And so that kickstarts your process. Like Nimrod said, there's tools available to you offered by platforms that can help you manage risk. I think sort of some of the advice I'd give is simple stuff. Do your research, talk to your friends, email the people on this panel, consider everything we've covered today, take some swings. And then I think as far as, okay, we're ready to test any advice, maybe you start on a smaller app. Maybe you implement a new solution or implement a new stack and partially roll it out to some of your users. So I think step one, talk to your friends, get comfortable, do your research, and then if you feel the need to manage risk, consult your platform. We all have ways you can test out this new opportunity for your business while still staying comfortable with the amount of risk you're taking.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jamie, any key advice for developers to join you guys in general, the bidding solution?
Yeah, I think the practical advice is what was already mentioned. Pick a smaller app, A/B test, see what the results are. One thing I'll add is that I think it's really important to pick a bidding partner or bidding platform that ensures long-term success. So we see that some different, platforms, or there's deals out there that, you'll see a really, huge increase in ARPDAU over the first month, or, you get a guarantee, but long-term, that's not going to be as successful as if you look for a platform that can give you sustainable, uplift in your ARPDAU or maintain it. So you think, talk to your peers, really see which partner will be able to provide that sustainable growth.
Awesome, great. And Adam, how about you? Any advice for the onboarding experience and getting into it?
Yeah, I think obviously testing is part of the message that we're all sharing here, and I think one of the most important pieces of how a publisher should go to market for bidding their first time. I think the other piece to know here is that when you're choosing a mediation platform, be able to choose the one that's going to give you as much data as possible. I think that you can only really understand the value of the mediation partner that you're choosing if you're able to measure it. And I think again, I'm going to emphasize the fact that DSPs, while not a incredibly obvious part of the market to publishers today, make up a very significant piece of their overall revenue, because those DSPs are buying through ad networks, and so that demand makes it through an ad network to a mediation platform. But if you can really focus on the supply path for those demand partners and understand the shortest path to market, you're going to find the highest value partner to work with there. I think on top of that, the publishers should be speaking with their demand partners that are bidding. They should be speaking with Facebook, who's been driving a lot of bidding. They should be speaking with Ad Colony, who's been doing this as well. They should be speaking with you to understand what the dynamic looks like between the waterfall and bidding. And oftentimes, what we're seeing is networks like yourselves are telling publishers, "Hey, we perform better when we are bidding. We get to see every piece of inventory. We get to submit a price that is precisely measured to what the value of this inventory is. We don't have to rely on a prediction or a static price." And that drives a lot more competition, and it drives a lot more value for the publisher at the end of the day. So, having a lot of conversations with the participants in the bidding platforms are really good. I think one of the problems that I've seen in the industry is that I keep focusing on this DSP point. DSPs are not a company that has relationships directly with publishers, so it's often difficult for publishers to understand the value that DSPs are bringing to the table. But seek out publishers that do understand that, and try to dig a little bit deeper on what this segment of the demand space looks like and how it's different from the ad network segments. And I think there's a lot of revelatory information to be found there, especially when you're working with a platform that's very, very transparent and can show you all of the auction dynamics with all of the buyers on the same level.
Fantastic. Thanks for the insights on like onboarding and getting on the bidding solutions. We have a good amount of engagement right now with the audience, and have some time for a couple questions. The first one is, can someone please explain how will the first price auction from ad networks fit into an in-app bidding? It would be really good to understand the flow of this movement. Who would like to advise on this? Amy, you want to do it?
Sure. So the question, I assume, is just like how does first price auction work within the ecosystem? So within advanced bidding, all of our network partners are first priced. So whatever they bid, whatever the networks bid, that is the price that we expect them to pay, and we give transparency, to the publishers to say, this is the expected price that this network should pay. So for us, we already have integrated our networks as first price buyers.
Okay. Anybody else have any insights on this, or?
Sure. Yeah. First price is becoming, I think, the standard buying mechanism for the industry. What we're seeing right today is that all of the network bidders are first price native. They never had a second price strategy. They came into bidding first price first, but a lot of the DSP partners have been second price focused, and so they are in a transition from second price to first price, and what we're seeing is that market slowly evolve to first price. I think today what you have are auctions that will allow both first price and second price to compete in the same auction. What it ends up driving is just two different buying strategies. It's actually, I think it's a positive that we're seeing the second price buyers learn a little bit more about the first price buying strategy and adapt to that. And I think by the end of this year, early next year, we're going to see a much higher percentage of all of the programmatic buyers in the space focused on first price.
Okay, great. And we have one other question that's really interesting here. It says, how many bidders are enough? And how is traffic split amongst these bidders? Maybe Dan, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so I think I've heard a lot of panels or talk about we're not there yet. How many bidders are enough? The way I think about it, the way we think about it, as a developer, you're thinking about how do I grow my business? And core to that is how do I maximize ad ARPDAU? If you can go out today and make more money by doing something, 10% lift, a 20% lift, that's value to you. It's on every developer to weigh that upside or potential upside against other ways to grow your business. But if there's a 20% lift you can go get today, 30% lift you can go get today, and that comes from shifting to a platform with X number of bidders, you can decide if that's enough to get you to move today. Or, so we focus more on the impact, the opportunity available to you today to go make more money. And if that upside's interesting to you, you play to win and you go for it.
Any other insights on that? Nimrod, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think that the right question is what the share of voice or what the share of wallet which bidding can represent out of your entire stack, and less of like the amount of networks specifically. So for example, using two networks running through bidding, if they generate like 5% of your entire share of wallet, so you still need to to work on the entire 25%. While if you have, for example, a single network that runs through bidding, which is like takes like 40% of your share of wallet, so that's more important, right? That's more automation. That's like less work. So I will say that as a concept, I will look into the those like tier one significance buyers, and making sure, again, that the amount of inventory that can be sold through bidding is, I mean, what you're looking for, not exactly the amount of networks, while at any case, we will see growth in that part soon.
Well, awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody who was joining us from around the world. Seems like you guys were very engaged. And I also want to thank our esteemed panelists here for sharing your perspective and insights in this hour that we've had. Thank you all. If you have any additional questions, like to keep the discussion going, we know this is a very interesting topic and want to have more personal engagement, please, we're going to have allow you to follow up by email to any of us, and we're going to provide our emails to you. And yeah, again, please send your feedback, and we're going to have a chance, any of you have a chance to win that one pair of AirPod Pros. Please do. Again, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Jamie, Adam, Dan, and Nimrod. And thank you all your companies for joining us and giving your insights today.